Yeah, what do you want?
On the Epstein Files, you talked about Democrats who were in there. Elon Musk was also in there, and so was your Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and correspondence that he had with him. Did you read those new files that were published by the Department of Justice?
I didn't. I have a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine.
If you've been paying attention to the airwaves lately, you know the script is fraying at the edges. We're seeing a masterclass in narrative control, a high-stakes game of hide the bodies that's playing out in the bright lights of the press room. And if you think what you saw on the evening news was the whole story, you haven't been listening to the whispers. Let's talk about the moment the room went cold. A reporter steps up, mic in hand, and drops the one name that makes...
I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, it would have been major headlines.
A lot of women who are survivors of Epstein's are unhappy with those redactions that came out. Some of them, entire witness interviews are totally blacked out. Do you think that they should be more transparent?
The fact that they thought they released too much. I heard that, and you tell me something else. No. I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
You are
justice?
the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Now, why these specific files? The part people always whisper about is that information in D.C. doesn't leak; it's deployed. You have to ask, who is cashing out on this release? Is this a genuine pursuit of justice, or is it a calculated distraction? The DOJ doesn't just open the vault because they found the key under a mat. They open it when they need to change the temperature in the room. The surface level is transparency, but the deeper play is about who gets to control the fallout. Who decided which names made the cut and which ones stayed in the dark? Are we really supposed to buy that this is just procedure? Then the pivot. The response was immediate, almost too practiced. I haven't read them. It's the ultimate shield, isn't it? The busy man defense. Trump claimed he hadn't reviewed the documents because he was focused on other responsibilities. It's a classic move in the plausible deniability playbook. What the official records won't show you is that not reading something is a choice, a strategic ignorance designed to keep your hands clean during the cross-examination. If you haven't read the files, you can't be caught in the lie about what's in them. But follow the money trail for a second. In a world where information is the highest currency, do we actually believe the most scrutinized man on the planet didn't have a team of lawyers and fixers dissecting those pages the second they hit the server? Of course they did. The "I haven't read it" line is for the optics. It's a way to signal to the base that this is noise, while signaling to the gatekeepers that he's not going to be the one to pull the pin on the grenade. It's a play for time, a way to see how the public reacts before committing to a side. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? And then we get to the ink, the black ink. The reporter brought up the survivors, the people who actually lived through the nightmare, and their absolute fury over the redactions. We're talking about witness interviews that look like a crossword puzzle solved by a toddler with a Sharpie. Entire pages blacked out, key names scrubbed. The survivors are screaming that this isn't a release, it's a cover-up with a Department of Justice letterhead. Who is that black ink protecting? That's the question that keeps the insiders awake at night. You don't redact a name unless that name has the power to topple a pillar. This is the insurance policy logic. Those redactions represent the people who are still in the fold, the ones whose donations keep the wheels turning and whose influence keep the investigations at bay. The PR disaster of ignoring the survivors is a price the establishment is clearly willing to pay to keep those names off the front page. Is this about national security, or is it about protecting the net worth of the elite? The official word is privacy and ongoing investigations. The whisper is that those black bars are the only thing keeping the house of cards from collapsing. Then came the call to move on. This is where the gaslighting hits high gear. Trump suggested the country should just put the Epstein issue in the rearview mirror, claiming nothing significant was revealed, except, and here's the twist, an alleged conspiracy against him. It's a breathtaking maneuver. In one breath, you dismiss the suffering of dozens of victims as old news, and in the next, you center yourself as the true victim. Nothing significant revealed? Really? After years of speculation, after a mysterious death in a high-security cell, after names of the global elite were teased for a decade, we're just supposed to move on? This is the fatigue strategy. If you talk about a scandal long enough without providing a resolution, the public eventually gets bored. They want to move on, and that's exactly what the power players want. They want the Epstein Files to become white noise. They want the money trail to grow cold. By framing the whole thing as a settled issue, they're trying to close the book before anyone gets to the final chapter. But the room didn't stay quiet. When the reporter pushed for justice, actual justice for the survivors, the mask slipped. The exchange turned toxic. Instead of addressing the lack of accountability, Trump went for the jugular, attacking the reporter personally and taking swings at CNN. It was a classic kill the messenger play. When you can't argue the facts, you destroy the person presenting them. This isn't just about a bad mood, it's about optics and dominance. By branding the journalist as dishonest, you preemptively discredit anything they might report in the future. It's a calculated move to keep the gatekeepers of the media on their heels. Are we supposed to believe this was just a spontaneous outburst, or was it a signal to the rest of the press corps? Touch this topic, and you're next. It's a high-stakes game of intimidation designed to ensure that the Epstein question remains a dangerous one to ask. Then the narrative took a sharp turn into deep state territory. Trump claimed the documents actually showed that Epstein and his circle were conspiring to harm his political campaign. This is the ultimate flip the script moment. Suddenly, the billionaire pedophile isn't just a predator, he's a political operative working for the opposition. It's a brilliant, if cynical, piece of statecraft. By framing himself as the target of an Epstein-led conspiracy, he effectively inoculates himself against any future revelations. Anything bad that comes out can now be dismissed as part of the hit job. But let's look at the money trail logic here. Who benefits from this framing? It trains a sprawling, multi-decade criminal enterprise into a simple partisan skirmish. It shrinks the story down to a size that fits on a bumper sticker. They're out for me. It's a move for clout with the base, turning a complex web of international depravity into a simple tale of political persecution. And, of course, the blame had to go somewhere. The focus shifted heavily towards the Democrats. Trump argued that the real wrongdoing in the Epstein saga was a blue team problem, not a Republican one. This is the partisan shield at its most effective. In a polarized world, you don't need to be innocent, you just need the other side to look guiltier. What the official records won't show you is how much both sides of the aisle are likely sweating under those redactions. But by making it a partisan issue, you ensure that half the country will stop looking for the truth and start looking for wins. It's about cashing out on public anger. If you can point the finger at the other guys, you don't have to explain why the files are still half blacked out. You just have to win the news cycle. Is this about uncovering the truth, or is it just another calculated move to keep the base energized for the next election? Then comes the shiny object. After the tension peaked, the messaging shifted back to the strong economy and the achievements of the party. This is the pivot to prosperity. It's a well-worn tactic. When the questions get too hot, talk about people's wallets. The logic is simple. People care more about the price of gas than they do about a dead billionaire's flight logs. By shifting the focus to governing and economic stats, you frame the Epstein questions as frivolous or distractions. It's a way of saying, why are we talking about this when I'm trying to save your job? It's high-energy misdirection. The insider view is that this is the safety valve. If you can't kill the story, you bury it under a mountain of economic data and PR-approved talking points. Perhaps the most cynical part of the whole exchange was the claim that few people cared about Epstein while he was alive. Trump suggested that the public interest only spiked after his death. It's an attempt to rewrite history in real time. What people always whisper about is how many warnings were ignored, how many reporters were silenced, and how many victims were paid off long before 2019. To say nobody cared is to erase the decades of work by those trying to bring him down. But it serves a purpose. It makes the current interests seem manufactured. It suggests that if you're asking questions now, you're just part of the clout-chasing crowd or a political vulture. It minimizes the gravity of the crimes by framing them as a modern obsession rather than a long-standing failure of the system. Are we really supposed to buy that narrative, or is it just another layer of the onion being peeled back to hide the core? The press conference ended, but the air stayed thick. Reporters were still shouting questions about the files as the stage was cleared. Nothing was resolved. The tension was left hanging like smoke in a room. And that, my friends, is exactly how they want it. An unresolved ending is better than a definitive one when you're hiding something. It leaves the public in a state of confusion and fatigue. The Whisper Network knows that as long as the questions are unresolved, the status quo remains. The money continues to flow, the power stays in the same hands, and the redactions stay black. The exchange was a masterclass in deflection, but for those of us watching the money trail and the optics, the message was clear. The truth is in those files, but you're never going to see it without a fight. So, where does that leave us? We're looking at a landscape where justice is a PR move and transparency is a weaponized leak. The insiders